Welcome everyone. Today we are talking about resumes and LinkedIn profiles. So some of you, when you hear that, you may think, grown resumes and LinkedIn profiles. And some of you, when you hear that, you may think like, all right, let's get on with it. Senya, this is the midway point. This is week 5 in a session of 9 weeks. Finally, we're getting to the resumes and the LinkedIn profile. What's up? We've been talking about where we're going. We've been talking about how we reach out to people. Well, the currency here is resumes and LinkedIn profiles. Let's talk about it. Grab your workbook. It's Find Your Next Job Now series. This is the LinkedIn profile and resume section. Here's what you're going to know after this. Take your time. Okay, so today, what does the HR people department look for in your resume and in your LinkedIn profile? I will tell you that as I was in the HR department. Then we're going to go through the resume in the important sections, especially the top section, some action result pairs, and then we're going to go through a LinkedIn profile. The LinkedIn profile is going to be a complete checklist. So after this, you will know how to do a checklist of what to do on your LinkedIn profile. After this, you'll also know what to do with your resume. And finally, you'll know what to do from a chief people officer perspective. So we're going to get to all three. Let's start with where we are. So we are in week 5, kind of the middle week of this 9-week series. And if you remember, weeks 1 through 3 were about getting prepped and getting started for this process. Now weeks 4 through 6 are the middle. They're the important part of this process because they're the action steps. And you may recall that when I asked you all, what phase are you in? 60% of you said you're in that middle phase, which are our weeks 4, 5, and 6, which is resumes, LinkedIn profile, interviewing. What do I say in my interviews? What are my sorry stories? Which is last week's episode. So we are right in the thick of it, and we're doing LinkedIn profile and resume. So in this workbook, please go to the first section on from a chief people officer perspective. How do we tend to use the resume? How do we tend to use the LinkedIn profile? Do we use the cover letter? Okay, I was the chief people officer for a technology company recently. I was there about 1.5 years, and we grew from 150 to 650 people. I looked at a lot of resumes. Not all that growth was through resumes. Some of it was because the company, in a very public way, acquired some smaller companies. So not all of those were resumes. Nevertheless, I looked at a lot of resumes. I looked at a lot of resumes. The hiring managers looked at a lot of resumes. The whole company did. Certainly the recruiters, the TA team. I'm a big fan of the TA team at the talent acquisition, the recruiter team at any company. Here's what I most want to tell you from having looked at a lot of resumes. I'm searching for something really specific when I look at a resume. So here's the process as it happens. A hiring manager will come to the HR team, the people team, and say, we need to bring on this person. We have budget. Here's what it is. We work with them on a job description. Once the job description is signed off, checked off, finalized, we post that as a team, the HR team, the talent acquisition folks, the recruiters, they post this job description. In the first week, we get most of the resumes. So after that, it's more of a trickle. But it's really the first 24 hours or the first week. It can go from 0, this was before all of these layoffs. So it can go from 0 to 300 resumes. Here, let me make a real snap. From 0 to 300 resumes like that overnight for a specific job. We get from that 300 to maybe 20. Then 20 are evaluated by the hiring manager. Are these the right ones to come in? And about 10 to 30 are interviewed by the recruiter. So that's the screening interview. Resumes are important to the point that they'll get you to the next step, which is the interview with the recruiter. The interview with the recruiter is important to the point that it'll get you to the next step, which is the interview with the hiring manager and whomever else on the team. So what do we tend to do with resumes? We look at them really quickly. We're looking for keywords. We're looking at how you stand out relative to what we're looking for. What do we look at LinkedIn profiles? We actually, surprisingly, I was surprised the degree to which LinkedIn profiles are really relevant for a job search. The best kind of job search, so the most well-done job search is actually a job search where the recruiter will go out and will source candidates. In case this word feels vague or strange, I'll define it. So if I'm the recruiter, let's say I'm the recruiter at Microsoft, and I'm looking for a very specific position, I will go out on LinkedIn and I will look to see whether people have checkmarked, and I'll show you how to do that, have checkmarked that they are open to work. And I don't even mean the green banner. That's optional for me as a recruiter. I don't need that. I actually need the other button more, both buttons are fine. You can press two buttons, one that shows the world that you're open to work and one that shows recruiters that you're open to work. Either is fine, but I go for that if I'm a recruiter, and then I look for similar skills. That's the best way to get the best match because the recruiter is looking for that already. So it's not even the job applicants that come in. So to summarize what I've said, resume, really key things, key words, key ideas related to the job description. LinkedIn profile, show me in your LinkedIn profile that you're similar to what we're looking for. Any questions in terms of what the people department, what the hiring managers, what they're looking for quickly before we delve into how to get to these specific things? Oh yeah, I never read cover letters, someone said. Agree. So my third question is, do we look at cover letters? I would say almost never, maybe once in a blue moon. If we like that person's resume and we may be curious about something else, once in a blue moon, and even then we may not. The question is, how similar to your LinkedIn profile should your resume be, and how different should it be? It doesn't really matter. The resumes are if there are a lot of resumes, that's what's going to get looked at. If you want to get sourced and you want to get pulled by a recruiter, what's on your LinkedIn is going to matter. So in this day, for all of us who are here looking for a job, your LinkedIn profile should be relatively detailed. In past times and in future times, you might just say, here I was at the company, I generally had these responsibilities. But now you want to start using keywords. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I'll show you my LinkedIn profile and what I mean by that. So to your question, to get sourced, your LinkedIn profile has to be up to date with what you are looking for. So there are different ways to describe the job that I just had. And the way that you'll want to describe the job that you just had is so that it has the components of what you're next looking for. So as an example, let's say I don't like the talent acquisition or the recruiting section part of being on the people team. If I don't like that, don't mention that in my last role. Mention all the other things, mention talent development, succession planning, mention job reviews and market compensation if that's what I like. So don't mention or really downplay the things that you don't really want to do as much on your LinkedIn profile or on your resume. So everything is towards getting an interview with that recruiter and then getting an interview with that hiring manager. And what's going to do that? The things that are most similar to this. And I'm going to tell you, I think recruiter and talent acquisition people, they're really rational people. What is the best way of predicting for this hiring manager that person A is going to be a good match? If person A has done the exact same role. So I imagine you all just pushing back and saying, Senya, but what if person B would be phenomenal at this and kind of has a new view of what the role could be and could look at it in a more holistic way? Yes, but that's not the sure thing. So if I'm a recruiter, I want the person who's done effectively the same job or something really close to it. Okay, let's play with the next part. That was all about what do I see behind the scenes. We'll talk about the next section, which is the resume. If you are in the workbook, go to page 5. Resume. What's the point of a resume? What needs to come across? What tools can you use when you're working on your resume? And then we'll talk about a specific, not great example of a resume right there. What's the point of a resume? Why have a resume? Why submit resumes? Why do you want your resume to be good? What is the point of your resume? It is to get to interview with the recruiter. Thank you very much. You're the fastest. You answered right away. Thank you. That's it. Great. It is to answer, and you're the talent acquisition person. So thanks for saying that. Somebody here is saying to answer the question why they should hire you. I actually like your answer. That's a great answer. You and I should work in cahoots behind the scenes. That's great. So if we want people to see your resume and think, oh, I've got to hire this person. So what needs to come across? If we want to convince people that we're the right person for this job and that we definitely should have the recruiter contact us to do that screening interview, what needs to come across in the resume? Your skill set and how it matches the job description. Absolutely. Can you do the job that's advertised? Yes. Applicable past actions, keywords, what they're looking for. Does it match the exact same role? Experience relevant to this? Yeah. Oh, I really like this one. It's you again. You talent acquisition person. Awesome. That they have a problem to be solved and you're the person to solve that problem. That's a really great mindset to have. And what that would involve is a lot of comparison. What is the job description? What is my resume? How well do they match? So one person here is saying STAR. I use the SARI method, very similar: situation, action, result, interesting thing. Let me answer what you just wrote. It turns out from my recruiter friends and my resume writer friends that you don't actually want to do star on your resume. You want to do R. You want to do AR. You want to do just action result. Here's the action and here's the result. I took this action, I got this result with metrics. So you want to do a lot of action result pairs. I wish it were star. Let me put it like that. I think resumes would be much more fun if people said, here was the situation, this is the action I took, here's the result. And by the way, here's this interesting thing that came out and improved the whole business. It's not star. You don't have enough resume for sorry or star. You don't have enough space. So you really have space for action pairs of here's the action, here's the result I got. I wish it were the whole story. I wish it were. One of you is asking, I've been told that the resume must be customized for each job you apply to. What is my view? I emailed you this yesterday. I used to believe that. I used to believe that 2 years ago when I taught this course to 8 execs. That's what I told them. That's what they did. So they would write, like, for example, for me, Senya Myman resume. I would create 20 folders on my computer, Microsoft, Google, Apple, eBay, wherever I want to apply. And I would put in there the new Senya Myman resume. The resume would be completely different. It would be matched to that specific role. And it might be within Microsoft. I have 3 different subfolders for the named by the role. And I don't want to name my resume weird. So Senya Myman, Microsoft Product Manager Senior. I don't want to do that. The resume title should always be Senya Myman resume. I would have preferred to put, like, what's today's date? March. Senya Myman, March 2023 resume. No, you just want Senya Myman resume, just your resume. So I used to your question, I used to, and people in this industry used to say, definitely customize to the exact role. Here's my new view. My new view is that you will probably customize it about 3 times. One main one with 2 like backup or similar. The roles that you'll be applying to are so similar that you may end up customizing it just one big time for that role and then another couple for different angles of that role. I'm trying to think how I can describe that. Let me describe it by industry. Your main one may be focused, let's say, on tech, but you may have one focused on biotech, and you may have another one focused on the energy field. So that where you would highlight the work that you've done or the volunteer activities or the committees you've served on that are related to those. You may also have one that's more, to a question one of you asked, that's more focused on leadership and management, and another one that's more focused on individual contributor work. So you may have a few. I don't think you end up having 20. And I'll tell you why. So I really want to say my reason because I want you to make your own judgment. I used to think 2 years ago that the best way to apply to a job, in addition to connections, so connections would always be the first, but the second is find the right kind of job, customize your resume, apply online. I no longer believe that. And it may be limited, my belief may be limited to the environment right now. There are a lot of job seekers out there. I have heard stories from you all. I applied to 700 roles before I got an interview. I've applied to 200. I've applied to 350. These are real numbers. I'm not even exaggerating a little bit. So with that, I don't want you to, oh, I customized, I applied, I customized, I applied. I'd rather you do 90% of connecting with people, and then your resume is in addition. If you're joining me for the first time and you have no idea what I mean by connecting with people, watch week 3, which is all about connecting in relationships. Week 2 on flipping the job search on its head. This is about you acting more like a consultant. I won't go deeply into it, but the idea is you reach out to people that are important to you, and then they say to you, hey, Senya, there's someone here who has a role open. Would you be open to considering that role? To which your answer would be, it would depend on the details, but I'd certainly be open and interested in talking. If somebody says, I'm applying for jobs that are looking for a senior level person. I have the qualifications for these positions, but I didn't get the senior title at my previous job. So Robin's story says really simple solution to that. You have your title, whatever it was, let's say associate product manager. And then in parentheses, you have senior manager equivalent, or you have director equivalent, whatever it is. Why do you do this? So I've told you all this before. There are about 60 of us right here on this call. The people here, I know some of who you are because we've emailed back and forth. You are all ex-Google, ex-Zoom, ex-Stripe. You're all really, really high-achieving people. And because you're really high-achieving people and your companies are high-achieving companies, your title at that company may be a little more junior than the title you apply to at a different company or an earlier stage company. So saying, if you were a senior manager, saying director equivalent, or if you were an associate manager, saying senior manager equivalent, that's relevant. That's important. So we've talked about what's the point of a resume. We've talked about what needs to come across, how good a match you are for this. What's the problem the company's trying to solve? How are you the solution? I've really loved how you said that. Here's some tools you can use. If you don't know about this, I'm going to give you a few sentences about each of them. JobScan, great tool. I think you can use 5 per month free. What you do is you put in the actual job description, you put in your resume, and it shows you where you have a match and where you don't have as much of a match. It also can organize for you what are the main keywords in the job description. And when it does that, you can say, oh, do I have these keywords as much in my resume? So you really can find, they recommend, I watched the video with JobScan people, they recommend about I think it was a 70 to 85% match. So you don't have to get 100% match, but you don't want to be in the lower numbers. Similarly, you can use ChatGPT. So I will just describe what I'm doing on ChatGPT, but I'll probably film this and then send that out to you all. It's so simple once you try it the first time. So ChatGPT, good friend of mine, is a great way to put in 2 things. You go there and you put in, here's the job description, and then you ask it to confirm. Do you confirm that you just saw this job description? It will say, yes, I understand this job description. It usually even summarizes it for you. I'm now going to enter in the last role I held and then just copy and paste in those bullet points from your resume currently. Then say, ChatGPT, please rewrite these bullet points to more match this job description. That's it. After that, you say, please rewrite these bullet points in an even more succinct, impactful way. It'll rewrite them again. Please rewrite these bullet points in an even more succinct, impactful way and include metrics. It'll rewrite them again. When you do that, big caveat, you are going to need to check what ChatGPT said about your resume. It may say, here's a metric and Senya increased hiring by 50% or improved the efficiency of hiring by 70%. You got to check, did you even measure that metric for yourself? Is that metric relevant? So ChatGPT will give you very impactful sounding things, but you're the arbiter of truth here. Like you got to check in on that. So 2 ways, you've got JobScan and you've got ChatGPT. That's a way to compare this to that. Now let's talk about I know you can skip the please part, but I put in please and thank you when I'm talking to ChatGPT. I don't know why. I was even showing it to a friend of mine and my friend said, you're so polite with I feel like I should treat it like a person. You're right, you do not. Someone asked, is it okay to use ChatGPT for cover letters? I wouldn't use a cover letter at all unless it's required. And yes, it's okay, but please do edit it. It's just going to have wrong things. That's just how it works. Yeah, thanks for your smiling, laughing with tears. So let's look at this very unhappy person whose name is John Doe. This is from Wikipedia. This poor, sad person, John Doe, does not have a really great resume. And that's why we're going to look at his resume. And also for later, this is a whole article in which I interview this expert person, Doug Turner, on what are the main things to have on your resume. So everything I'm talking about, it's here, and he also has basically a checklist. So you will have more ability to go to this important part. Okay, so John Doe, could you guys tell me at the same time that I'm going through, what's one of the problems with this resume? What is one of the problems with this resume? No summary paragraph, huge, that's huge. Education should not be first, that's what I would have said. No obvious skills. Use a summary, not an objective statement. It is boring. Yeah, objective is old form. You guys are completely spot on. We don't use objective. So what we use is this thing called a summary statement at the top. I will describe it in a lot of detail. Education. So most of us are more senior in our careers than 22 years old and into our earliest first job. So education should be on the bottom. Education should not have dates. We do not want people to know how old you are. So don't put what date you graduated. You can still put the universities, put the degrees. If you have something outstanding there, like GPA, you can put that. But do not put dates. This was new to me when I looked into this years ago. You don't put dates. You do not want anyone to know how old you are. And for your resume, you're only going to put in about the last 10 years, maybe 15 years. And then you can do at the end, previous experience also includes, and just a short list. So what do we have? We don't have a summary paragraph. That's probably the most important. I'll talk about that next. Education needs to go lower. Then education has no dates. And there are no skills listed here. 100% correct. This person uses I, my, and our. You are correct. You don't use any statements like that. You don't say I did this, I did this. You just say created, led, spearheaded. It's just verb past tense. Summary statement. Two things, and I hope they're both a little bit surprising to you about the summary statement. Please do not call the summary statement summary. Right below that, skills, literally skills, colon, and then type. It is really simple to say summary or qualifications or experience overview. Do not put any of those. So what I'm talking about is below your name and below the contact information, which, by the way, contact information, email, phone, your city and state is plenty. You don't need to put the street address any longer. In your contact information, you must include your LinkedIn profile URL. So yes, it's your name, your LinkedIn URL, your city and state, your email, and your phone number. Thank you so much. In any order on that, that doesn't matter. So your name, your contact information. Then the next thing is this paragraph. It's a very short paragraph. I actually like to do it as about 3 or 4 bullet points. That summary statement, here's what you're going to title it. I'm a chief people officer. If I were to ever apply for a full-time job, it would probably be called chief people officer or chief human resources officer. That's going to be the title of that section. One of you previously asked, I don't have senior in my title. Let's assume you were associate manager. So you were associate manager of something, but you want to go for senior manager. You put senior manager, technology industry, or whatever other detail are relevant. Why? Because you're describing what you're going for. You are extremely factual in your resume, but what you're putting here is the title of what you're going for. So you now have a paragraph or a few bullet points at the top, and what you've put is the title of what you're going for, and then you put in the bullet points. Here's my top recommendation to you in that section. 3 or 4 bullet points that are your most impactful things that you have done for companies and businesses. To know whether they are the most impactful, first of all, go to that question that we had with Sorry Stories. Did it increase profit or did it improve productivity? Did it increase profit by increasing revenues or decreasing expenses, or did it improve productivity or efficiency? Did I improve some process? What are the metrics? So look for 3 or 4 of these. Just really scan your mind for what are the most impactful. Then those are your top 4. So you've got senior manager or whatever field, and then you've got, here are the things that I've done. Then you go into the resume. So I'm going to pause about the summary section, which we're calling by the title of what you're going for. Applicant tracking system, is the ATS, like Greenhouse, going to exclude you because you're not being transparent? No, it doesn't look for dates in education. I've never seen that. It looks for that. If your core competency is increasing revenue, you're wanted by every company here. That's wonderful. That is great. And please put that in your top bullet points by every company that's hiring. Great question. Does it seem a little misleading if you put your desired title instead of your actual title? You're not saying it's your actual title. Just think of me if I'm sitting in an HR department and I see a resume and it says something that's not so very related to the role. I can't move it forward to the next section. I can't get from 300 to those 20 to 30. I want to get your resume to that. So it's got to say that this is related to the role. You could say equivalent. You could say target. Just somehow put in what you're actually going for. Is overall length of resume a concern? Yes, absolutely. You want 2 pages. 2 pages. If you really need it, you could take 3 pages, but please put 2 pages. But also look, if you only have these 4 bullet points at the top, and each bullet point is maybe 2 lines, and then you have all of your jobs, but you're just using your jobs from the past 10 to 15 years tops. After 15 years, you're putting in previous experience includes. So you're just putting in a small sentence without the years, without anything. People only want your last 10 to 15 years. Some people do not put a section at the top. We're calling the summary section. When I've seen it at the top, I glance at it. When I've been internal and I've seen it, why do I glance at it? Because it gives me a quick view rather than needing to scan the previous roles. Gives me a quick view and then I look down. Made an industry switch in the last 10 years. Do you include that on the resume? Did you switch into the industry you want to keep working in? Which industry do you want to keep working in? The now or the one 10 years ago? If it's the now, of course, include that. If it's the one 10 years ago and you want to go back into that, yes, include that. Because everything that points in the direction of getting you an interview at the company. Should you have 2 resumes? Oh gosh, no, I don't think you should. One for an applicant tracking system and another for people. No, have 1 resume. Oh my gosh, it would be so much effort and you would never know if it's getting to the right person. No, just 1 main resume and then other resumes that are targeted to different things. Can you have the summary section without a title? Yes, you can have the summary section without a title. My argument is that the title will allow you to even more target the role that you're going for. So skills are really important to talk about. And skills, so here's what it should look like. Your name, your contact information, including your LinkedIn profile, the summary section, which I recommend you title with the, like for me, it would be Chief People Officer. Right below that, skills, literally skills, colon, and then type. How do you determine which skills you should be putting in? We're going to do that in the next section, the LinkedIn profile section that one of you talent acquisition people brought up, which is super, super important. So you will use LinkedIn to figure out what the verbiage is, what the words are that you then put into your resume under that summary section, skills, and you list them. How many skills do you list? You could do 5 to 10. So skills that are relevant, it might be 3, but definitely don't go over 10. It shouldn't be a paragraph. How do I highlight if I am moving, if I'm doing a career change or a pivot? We'll touch on that. And how do I highlight my leadership or management skills if I haven't done as much of that or really any of that? Let's start with the leadership and management. I was just having this conversation with someone I really enjoyed speaking with recently. If you have worked at a company, you have likely, and it's a somewhat large company, you have likely managed vendors. If you've managed vendors, so somebody has pitched you something, you've gotten budget, you've gotten that approved, and then you worked with them and you watched their deliverables come in and you made sure they had the right deliverables and you connected with them on all that, then you managed somebody. You weren't managing another employee, you were managing a vendor. If you have had other people work with you on a project where you were the lead on a project, you managed the project. Look for other things like that. I won't even know the other possibilities. If you did this on a committee and you led something, it's less exciting because it's not your main job, but it's still something in that direction. So how do you show management and leadership? Bring it up. So bring up those examples. Managed a vendor or several vendors, or managed the vendor with X budget. So if it's in the millions or hundreds of millions budget, that's saying a lot. The company trusted you to manage this vendor relationship. Anything that leads to the job that you want, that is accurate. I mean, that's by default, integrity and accuracy. So anything that's accurate, that's true, but that also points to where you want to go, please include that. Please figure out a way of sharing that information so it's included. Even decrease something that you may have done daily in favor of something that you want to do in this next job, like the management or leadership experience. One of you said, what if I'm switching my careers? Great question. You're still going to look at the terms in this job description, in a dream, in an ideal job description. So I haven't been clear about this. I've said you're going to have one main resume and maybe 2 other related resumes. Find an ideal job description. Even if it's not a job that you end up applying for, but something you really like. The keywords from that job description, which you can get through JobScan or from ChatGPT, pull out those keywords, make sure they're in your resume. So you're targeting, you're not just going from thin air, you're actually targeting something really specific. I bring that up for the person who asked about the pivot. For the pivot, you're still going to find that dream job in the new industry you want to go for. And you are going to make your resume sound as much like that on the project side, on the actual nitty gritty of what the work was, even if it's not that industry or if it wasn't that role. There's so much in Silicon Valley, there's so much of engineers moving to product managers and product managers sometimes reverting back to engineers. So there is movement in that direction. Look again for that thread consistently that, for example, Senya is the best product manager for this because her other work is so related. So consider how you can frame it in a related light, like equivalent, when your role really was director equivalent. Like if you worked in tech and you had a little bit of experience with some projects in energy, but now you want to move into the energy field, oh my gosh, blow up those projects with energy, really highlight them, really give them more airtime, put the metrics in there, show those. If you were at your last job, someone says for 16 years, do I just put one job in history? So for that reason, I would actually say maybe put 2 just for the variety of it, just to see another company's name clearly. But your 16-year job would be this big, and your previous job, even if that one was also 16 years, would just be smaller, fewer bullet points. Thanks for that question. We're moving to our LinkedIn profile. We've talked about what an HR department looks for. We've talked about what's on your resume. LinkedIn profile. Feel free to use this as your checklist. What do I mean by all these? I will look at all of these using my profile as an example. And I'm at my own profile. This is my photo. Please make sure your photo is not blurry, that it's not a side view. You might ask a friend to take a photo. put it through some filters just to make sure it's a clean looking photo. Mine is very detailed. Do not do this. All you need is a nice image of trees or nature or gears. I've mentioned this. I know a lot of you have emailed me and you've put that up. You don't need this unless you're actually communicating with other people on LinkedIn about something. What you really need is something that's welcoming and that's not the typical LinkedIn profile. What I mean is the LinkedIn profile that doesn't have, that you can tell the person hasn't done a lot of traction or movement there. That's the grayish background. Don't have the grayish background. So literally after today's session, go and change the background image. That's this image here. It's really easy to change. You go here and you just upload an image. You can get a free image from Canva. You can look up other free images, just something that's clear enough so it's not fuzzy, and a really clear image. Okay, so we've got the image and we've got your photo in which you're looking at the camera. Now, this is super important, this part about what you do. And people may have here, product manager, they may have whatever they're doing. Now, this is super important, this part about what you do. And people may have here, product manager, they may have whatever they're doing. You can go and change it. And let me tell you about something that's just recently available. It's so recently available that I don't have it. Not everybody, even with a LinkedIn Premium account, has it yet. When you go to your headline, you're supposed to be able to get the LinkedIn AI to help you craft your headline. I don't have access to it now. They've just released it to everybody sequentially. So you can get help there. I also have just shared with you something else that I like, which is check out this link. This is a person who's great. You could follow him on LinkedIn, and he has a link to what he calls a free LinkedIn headline analyzer. Walks you through a simple example that gets more and more complex and more complex. You're at a pretty concrete headline that gives a sense to people of what you're doing. People are going to be seeing what the keywords are here. So do put in the keywords that are relevant to your job. The next thing is going to be your about section. We've talked about your about section, and the best way to do it is for people that do this or companies that do this. I get these results by doing this. So that's going to be your about section. In your experience section, this is the part where you're going to put in more detail. So you notice how it's really, you don't need to use fancy bullet points. You can use regular bullet points. You really need to put in the main parts from your resume. So now your newly crafted resume, the one that's been tied to your ideal job description, you're going to put in some really key things that you've done because you want to be sourced, you want recruiters to find you, and you want them to find this information. You are also going to add skills. This is critical, and thank you to the TA person who on this call who called it out. It's critical. I'm editing my own experience. I edit this, and when I'm editing my description, I edit the skills section. You can add a skill. You will find what these are by starting to type in your words. So these are skills. These are also the skills that are posted for on the LinkedIn posts. These are also the skills that you're going to take from here and take over to your section on your resume below the contact info and below that summary that's titled with your ideal job name or ideal job equivalent name with the word equivalent. These are important skills because these are the skills that jobs are like. So how do you find these? We're going to go to jobs, and I'm going to type in for myself. Oh, I've had these. I did an example here. Chief People Officer. I'm going to go to Chief People Officer. Just this is my field, and this looks a little bit similar. So I'm going to what I would do. I'm going here, and I am looking what skills do they need. So it's not that I'm an incredibly amazing person or even a perfect match for this job, but I have 10 out of the 10 most common skills because I've done this before. I have gone to a job that is like a job that I would apply for, and I've seen what are the important skills to put. And then I've checked with myself, do I have skill in leadership? Of course. In recruiting, yes. Employee relations, yes. Performance management. These are things I've done. So what I've done is I've gone to my profile and made sure that those skills are in two places. One is in my most recent experience. And second, if you go to the About section, let me close out of here. in the About section, I've also added skills. So if you don't see it in different jobs, you can also see it in my About section. Now again, this isn't not to review, but just to show that it's so simple for you to do. It doesn't even have to be your ideal job, but something that's very similar. I'll find another one. It's not here. This is a different confidential jobs. And I might not have all 10 here. I do, because they're similar. These are very, very similar jobs. So the jobs that I'm going for, the job descriptions are posted in a similar way. So what have we just done? We've done your profile image and your banner. We've done your header. We've done your About section. We did this in a previous session. For these kinds of companies, high tech, high growth, I do this to get these results by doing this. There's a previous video on that. I've just talked about skills and keywords. Experience. Your experience section needs to have the most important parts from your resume. Your education, no dates. And keywords. So keywords are the thing that, this is a summary of what we talked about from the resume. I've gone to that job, I've looked for it, I've put it into JobScan or into ChatGPT. I've found the main keyword that appears the most. And that keyword either needs to be in my skills, so it's literally there, or I otherwise have to figure out how to get it into my resume, into the experience section. This is a link that I want you to click on at some point. You can, here, I'll show it to you. This is how LinkedIn shows behind the scenes to recruiters that you're open for work. Now you can do one of two things. You can either show all LinkedIn members that you're open for work, and that will include that open to work frame, or you can click a button that shows recruiters only. The only one you need to do is the recruiters only. You don't need to do this in order to be found. This is entirely an optional thing. So I just had a discussion about this with someone that I'm working with. That they asked Senya, should I include the open to work frame? It's entirely up to you. I haven't seen that it's either better or that it's worse, really, in neither direction. So I know sometimes people will say it's up to you, but I don't have a recommendation. Sometimes it's really great to be very clear about that, especially when you're commenting and starting your thought leadership with others on LinkedIn by posting. Sometimes you don't need that because you already are showing recruiters that you're available. So up to you, but if you haven't clicked the button to show recruiters that you're available, absolutely do that. The person who missed where's the I'm available to recruiters button, that is in the workbook. You will see it. It's a link in there. I'd rather you do 90% of connecting with people, and then your resume is in addition. I'm going to conclude our three things and then answer the questions. So the three things we talked about today are what the HR department or the people department looks for. In your resume, your top section, your action result pairs. We talked about that in answer to a question. This is how you're writing your bullet points. And if you want, I can do a separate LinkedIn post just on what those should look like. It's sometimes nice to put in something memorable in your resume, but it gets such little time anyway. I'll tell you a thing that I put into my resume, but it's up to you. At the very bottom of my resume, it's 2 pages. And because I have space, I've put in 2 quotes real quotes from real people about what they say about me as a chief people officer. It's weird, it's quirky, but there's nothing bad about it, and I have the space, so I've put it in. So if there's something personal that you can put in, but not too personal, we don't do that anymore, like hobbies. We used to do that on resumes. We don't do that anymore. So something that's relevant, again, in the service of getting an interview. And LinkedIn profile, we've gone through more than this. This is just some of what we've done. So my one question to you, and then I will go back to the questions, is what is your one takeaway from today? And I say that because we can do a bazillion takeaways and they won't matter. So if you think about what is your one takeaway from today, your biggest thing, your one takeaway, what's really landing for you? Keywords, keywords, keywords. Great. Update the resume. Excellent takeaway. Thumbs up. Totally agree. So you just put this, you don't need to customize your resume to every different role. I have to say this is different from even 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I would have been standing here saying you absolutely need to, but they're so similar if you're finding the thing that works. Plus, you're not getting your roles this way. Add your LinkedIn handle to the resume, yes, and shout out to the talent acquisition person that pointed that out. Talent acquisition does not look at cover letters. No, we do not. No. Your LinkedIn profile was not up to date as you thought. Wonderful. Go to it. That's great. Your resume is updated. That's what the point of this is. Compare against skills. That's been a takeaway of mine recently, just how big that is. Compare against the skills for that kind of role on LinkedIn. Skills go at the top before experience, 100%. Upscale my skills section. This is so useful, what you're saying here. Match the skills to my LinkedIn profile. A summary section to focus what role you're going for instead of your last role. Yes, 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 yes. The distinction between the summary and the about part on LinkedIn, how recruiters really use resumes. Wonderful. No graduation date, 100%. Also, when I learned about that a while ago, that was new to me. No need to create 20 resumes, update the skills in the LinkedIn roles. You goofy person. One person but attach $20 to your resume. Of course, with this our electronic resumes. For the ATS, right? For the applicant tracking. Use AI to help you match job descriptions, 100%. It really works. I do not know why cover letters are asked for in applications if nobody looks at them. I do not know. We never ask for them at our company. Most companies do not, but some do. If they're asked for, try to make it stand out. I have a tip for you on cover letters if you do need to write a cover letter. There is some psychological benefit to saying who you are and who you aren't. So who you are is, I'm interested in this role because of something short, why you're super interested in this role or this company. It's a really clear distinction of what I do and what I don't. Then in your cover letter, it would be like, oh, check, 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 that's important. Not check, not check, we don't need that. The things that Senya says she doesn't do, we don't need that. So that's one way that you can make your cover letter a little bit more fun. I'm going to post about this. I also really like the smart brevity way of writing cover letters. So I will send this in an email today or tomorrow. It's really short. It's just 4 bullet points. So I will send that. Don't put contact info into the header and footer. You don't need that. Oh, I haven't mentioned this explicitly. Super simple format for the resume, super simple. So please don't do one of these graphic design, buy a resume template, none of that. That messes up the applicant tracking system. It should be in a regular Google document, a Word document. It really should be, you're typing it in. You can change the size of the font, that's okay. You can bold and unbold, you can underline, but do not mess with that fancy or the tabs. It just looks so bad when the applicant tracking system tries to pull it in, which makes me not want to look at your resume as much. It's harder for me. I have 300 resumes, and if one is hard to look at, there's only so much effort. So simple, and then export to PDF. Yes, you export to PDF after all of it anyway. You always submit as a PDF. So you ask an important question. Supposedly for creative roles, there is flexibility and to have more graphic element to your resume. I even wonder if you could do a boring resume, so just text, and then your second page, or maybe a 2-page boring, and then your page 3 and 4 are your graphical resume. You want the ATS to pick you out, even for a graphical role, and they won't pick you up if they can't read it. They won't. So I never had an issue with italics. Okay, but there are different tools out there. In summary, you know what chief people officers and HR departments, talent acquisition look at, not only for me, but for other TA folks on this call. You know what to do with your resume. You know what to do with your LinkedIn profile, which is probably biggest bang for the buck. The LinkedIn profile you could do in the next few days. You've got this checklist. Just do the ones that you can, even if you can do 3 of these things, because it makes you look more current, more relevant. And I would say the biggest bang for the buck there is really that banner behind your head, just to make you look active, and then that skills matching to possible job. Oh, and of course, opening yourself up to recruiters. We are in good shape. The only way that I know how to get in touch with you is if you are on the email list. The email list is at jobsearch2023.com. I'm going to give you one more assignment. Your assignment, should you decide to accept it, is to do whatever you can do of the LinkedIn profile checklist. That is your mini challenge. Send me an email. You've got my email. I send you an email almost every day. Send me an email telling me if you did that, if you did some of the LinkedIn profile challenge. Your other assignment is to do something for your health, and your other assignment is to do something to connect with someone. It could be your mom, it could be a colleague, it could be anyone. Thank you for spending the time together. This has been LinkedIn Profiles and Resumes, and I will see you next week at the same time. All the best.